Hello, this is Winston Cunningham, and it is August the 10th, 2026. And I want to talk today about uncommon sense. I heard it all the time when I was growing up, this person ought to just have common sense. Well, it's just common sense, But it wasn't until I got to the School of Metaphysics at age 42 that I heard the term uncommon sense. So now I'm appreciating having gone from, it's similar to going from believing into knowing, from religion, above that, and politics, into a sacred space. And I say a sacred space because the sacred space has always been there, and it always will be. So I have come to at least a portion of it. I heard the term all the time I was growing up in church, born again, born again, born again. Well, the truth is, and rising above religion, we're actually born again into each level of consciousness. There are 7 levels of consciousness within us. And we're working inward through the different levels of mind. And for the most part, most of the planet is still locked into the 7th level only. And that is the space where people say, prove it to me before I believe it. Or they're caught up in religion, which says, believe this and don't pay attention to anything else. I couldn't work with that. I didn't work with that. I knew that there was more. Oh, I forgot to turn on my light. Oh, I'm talking about light and I forgot to turn it on. Light is who we are. It's the essence of awareness. So we actually, when we rise above religion and politics and all this hoopla and get into something real, we actually open the door to the vastness of the universe. And that is captured within us already. And the key to the whole thing is to unlock the door that gives you uncommon knowledge. It is not commonplace for people to see clearly what is going on in their life, what is going on in their community, what is going on in their country, and what is going on in the world. I can do that. It is uncommon sense. Now, I didn't go far enough in the studies to identify which particular level I'm in and all stuff. That takes some more work, more than what I did. But I heard enough talk about it around the school, and the lessons dealt with enough of it to where I at least know that I'm going into subconscious mind. I know that. But I can't tell you exactly what level I'm in. That takes going through the training at School of Metaphysics. It starts at lesson 42, and I got to lesson 33, which gave me everything that I needed, but there's a lot more. And I decided that, and it took me a while after I dropped out of the school, it took me a while to realize that I stayed long enough to get what I needed to do what I needed to do this lifetime. And so I've been able to pull everything in closely to where I can see what is relevant to me and my growth, me and my learning. I don't need to see how it looks from your perspective. these talks are about stimulating other people, whoever needs to hear this, stimulating someone into asking the question. And I know from experience that once you clarify the question, then your own soul will guide you to where to find the answer. That's how I found the School of Metaphysics, or my soul found it for me. So before I even had the lessons which explained what had happened, I experienced what had happened. I experienced it. And I think this was plaguing me all the time I was growing up, because I kept asking, why are these other kids and other people thinking so much differently than I am? Well, I didn't know how to relate it to experience. But I know from sitting in church all the time that these people they stopped at the believing stage and didn't need to know. Didn't know they needed to know. But I did. And it took me a long time to realize that the reason everyone was thinking so much differently than I was, I had already been above that in previous lifetimes. So now I'm functioning from the standpoint of accepting where I am in the process of the whole thing, without comparing myself to anyone else. I can see where I am, where I came from, and where I need to go. And that's for me. And it would do well for you to answer those questions if you have not answered them so far. But as I said, I'm not in competition. The competition is in me. It's becoming better than I was before. That's what the competition is for me. But uncommon sense is the key that unlocks the doorway between you and the universe. Unlocks the doorway. And every question, and you'll read this in the Bible if you look close enough, that every question has an answer. Every problem has a solution. This is part of the Universal Peace Covenant that's read every morning on Zoom at 7:30 Central U.S. time. And it was written in 1997, I think, by the group of teachers at the School of Metaphysics. And the wording it took about 6 months for them to do it. But this is read every morning inside the Peace Dome that was built on the College of Metaphysics property in Wendyville, Missouri, right along the Niagara River. And I was there a number of times during my studies. But from the first night in class at the School of Metaphysics, my mouth was open because I was hearing some things that were connecting me with what I've been wanting all of my life. I was connected. I had turned the key to take me from common sense into uncommon sense. Now, when I say uncommon sense, a lot of what I say to people I've just met will sound strange to them, because if a person's been thinking in belief only, they're not thinking in terms of what I can do. They're asking someone else outside themselves to do something for them, so they're not involved. Well, I knew that was a fallacy from the beginning. I mean, I didn't know at that point how I knew. Now I know that I've been above this. I've been past this point in previous lifetimes. Now, how far I went, I don't know, and that doesn't matter because I am where I am, as Popeye would say. I saw a cartoon where a guy had big forearms, and the doctor told him, you might want to lighten up on the spinach. I can't thank the School of Metaphysics enough. I do so. I thank the school by telling other people about it, about how to use the different services, whether it's a health reading, past life reading, whether they want to build an understanding of actually what the scriptures are actually saying, which is written in the language of mind. And dream study is an important part of learning language of mind. And I've now had 40 years experience of working with dreams. But if you want to understand the language of mind, do yourself a favor and go to Zoom on Wednesday evenings. You'll connect yourself by going to the dreamschool.org, and then you'll see a connection there to the Wednesday night webinar for dreams. And there's a group there that will enlighten you about dreams. But it will take an hour a week to just invest in sitting and listening and sharing a dream. But just listen, because everybody's dream is a little different, but everybody's dream is geared toward them. But there's a universal symbology connected, just like, and here's the kicker, there's a universal symbology that the Bible is written in. But the people are attempting to understand it without the key language. That's not possible. And that's why there's so much confusion, continually batting back and forth. So everything comes down to what your opinion is. Well, opinion is just what you think before you have the experience. After you have the experience, you got the truth. And Jesus said very clearly, the truth will set you free. But most people in religion are not, they think they've already got the truth. But what they've got is some theory, some ideas, somebody else's way of perceiving what they read. And I present to you that your own answers through your own experience are the one that count the most, because that gives you the truth. The truth is not available by reading something or hearing a group of people say that this is true, this is true. Prove it yourself, and prove it yourself by asking the question and having your soul direct you to the answer. And if you do that, it leaves no doubt. And I know I have gone through other talks going through how I came to that. But there's not enough time for that here. But you can, all of these things are available to every person on the planet. But if you're stuck in the idea that you've got to do it a certain way, as this group of people say you have to, now come on. That was one of the early questions I had, because in church there's always a comparison with your religion compared to this other religion. Well, we do it this way, so we're right, and these other people do it another way, so they're wrong. And that's the way I was exposed to different religions. But now I go to the YMCA every day, and I meet people from all over the world, from different religions. And it's their culture that makes the religion. It's not the religion that makes the culture. I see that very clearly. And I was comparing notes to a guy who grew up Muslim, and he had similar questions about Muslims that I had about Christianity. It was just a lot of stuff didn't fit. But the culture says you're supposed to go along with this and you're not supposed to question. And that's true no matter what the religion is. And so I encourage you, if you're wrapped up in a religion, examine things rather than just believe what you're told. It's okay to believe what you're told, but go a step farther and prove it through your own experience. Through your own experience, not someone else's. Someone else's experience may lend some use to the person that's asking the question. But just consider the fact that the question you ask may be different than another person asks. And so this is why this whole thing is individualized. It depends. That's a big word I learned at School of Metaphysics, exactly 2 words. It depends. But uncommon sense is the thing to look at. If you're hearing something over and over that just about everybody says, question that to see if it's become a thing that people use without question. I even heard a well-known preacher in Texas, it's been years ago, say that the saddest thing to him was to see a kid grow up and adopt all his parents' beliefs without ever questioning them. So this preacher was far enough advanced to where he could see that the question is relevant. And I've often wondered what Kenneth Copeland's going to do when he finally figures out, and if he keeps going, he probably will eventually, to figure out that Jesus is not Lord. What's he going to do then? Jesus is the knowing quality within each one of us. That's what he brought onto the table. The knowing quality. Not enough to believe, have to know. John the Baptist represented belief. Lost his head. It was replaced, and he took belief to introduce the knowing quality. But Jesus represents the knowing quality. But the Lord, or Lord God, means I am. And I am is light, which is the only begotten Son of God, is light. That's the center portion of each of us, including Jesus, Muhammad, or whoever. The difference between us and Jesus and those other characters that have already ascended is that they've completed this level of study, this level of learning. And that's all it's about. We're on this planet to learn about ourselves through our own experience. And if you understand that so far, then you've unlocked the key to uncommon knowledge. Uncommon knowledge. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.